Johnston.
What's going on, Trent?
There was some football played this weekend. Some people were saying that it was a playoff game or two. There was 4 on the ballot, but
There
I
were
would
two.
say there's really only 2. Did you mean to do that?
No.
I don't know. Did we find a secret code here? Because I don't know how you did that.
No, I
Interesting.
don't know what happened.
I don't know.
Do it again.
Shocker. We are inventing things here on
Here we go.
the platform we're using, but that's cool. But anyways, some playoff games, some other bowl games going on as well. Hope you're doing well. Thanks for tuning in to our second episode. Hey, we have 5 subscribers. Now the race to 10 subscribers is on. Double digits. Can we
We're
get
on
there?
a heater.
Someday we will. So, I mean, excited. So there's our welcome button. But,
Let's go.
of course, as I mentioned, college football playoff games this weekend. We'll just go in order of the way the games were played, of course. And that would be the game that I don't want to say we necessarily paid the most attention to, but we are Alabama fans. So when we talk about the college football playoff results, we are going to talk about the Alabama-Oklahoma game first, a game in which Alabama wins 34-24 over Oklahoma. In a game, Oklahoma scored the first 17 points. And then Alabama obviously scores 34 of, or goes on a 34-7 run to end the game. There didn't score until the second quarter. Johnson, not just as an Alabama fan, but your thoughts on that game as a whole. Mentioned Oklahoma jumps out to a 17-0 run against Alabama. Alabama wins it, though.
Yeah, I believe as like a general college football fan, I don't think anyone could say that they were bored in that game. Maybe early on. I mean, I had written them off, to be honest. I thought it was over. I thought the number was 14 if they got to 14-0. That's the number that we had seen in the past. I mentioned it last week, like with Vanderbilt last year, 14-0. We just couldn't catch up because they were keeping the ball from us. And I know that Oklahoma's play style kind of matches up with that. If we get ahead, you're in trouble. And I honestly thought it was over. But it made for a very eventful second through fourth quarters. And I think as a general football fan, even though I understand that, not in a conceited way, but people don't want Alabama to win because of the dominance that has been for the past 17, 18 years. So I think if a college football fan steps back from that, they can't say that they were bored in that game at all.
I think it was a fun game. Of course, Alabama down 17-0. Interestingly enough, when they played in Tuscaloosa a few weeks ago, it was Oklahoma with a +3 turnover edge in that game to win by 2. This time, game kind of flips. Oklahoma, I believe, outgained Alabama all night. I'll have to pull up those stats to confirm.
It was by at least 100.
I don't know the exact number, but I do believe they outgained them. But Alabama won the turnover battle. Alabama, when it was in Tuscaloosa, outgained them by almost 200 yards.
Yeah.
And lost the turnover battle by 3. Fittingly enough as well, Oklahoma had a good kicker. It worked out all year. Made a big kick into or would have made a kick in Tuscaloosa, I believe, to beat Alabama. Alabama kicker had struggled. Alabama had the better kicker this weekend, which I think was a bit of probably something and not just for Connor Talty's sake. I do think Tate Sandell was probably the best kicker in college football this year. So I say unsurprising. It's more or less because how good Sandell had been all year. But the game kind of flipped. Alabama went on a 75-yard drive with Lotsair Brooks getting in the end zone, and then there was a blocked punt or just a muffed punt from the punter. I don't really know how to describe if it was a blocked punt technically or not. Tim Keenan got it. They kicked a field goal and then a pick 6 from Xavier Brown. So all 3 facets of Alabama's game, offense, defense, and special team, really showed up. And that's what got them back into a 17-17 game. And then once Alabama took the lead, they didn't give it back. So I think that's a big result. Big credit, obviously, to Kane Womack and the defense. I thought they played well. Some issues tackling in the first quarter, but they switched from zone to man, which they haven't done much of this year. But when they did, it worked out well. And then big shout out to Coach Kalen DeBoer and the whole staff for making whatever adjustments they made to wake Alabama up.
Yeah, DeBoer talks about competitive stamina. That's what he calls it. Not having enough football. Not having enough of the game, and he talked about it post game. If you keep playing, the game will come back to you. And obviously frustrating as an Alabama fan early on. I felt in the first quarter the defense had a lot of one-on-one missed opportunities where in open field we get them in 3rd and long or 3rd and medium in a must-pass situation, and there were chances to make a play to get a stop and just couldn't make the play. Red Morgan flying in and blowing up the blocker, but totally ignoring the ball carrier. Obviously, he wants to make a tackle, but it just seemed like a ball-headed mistake. It opened up the play a lot, and then the game gets flipped on its head. Xavier Brown once again flipping the momentum. He kind of sealed the deal against Tennessee, and I genuinely felt that the air kind of came out whenever Alabama took the lead, tied it up, and I felt that there was almost like a panic or like a here we go again from Oklahoma because now they're 0-5 in playoff games. So.
Yeah, Oklahoma still hasn't won a playoff game. Interesting enough there. Alabama's the first team to win a road playoff game. There's 2 now because Miami won one as well. We'll talk about them in a minute, but it's only been 2 years of the playoffs where you've had home games. So I don't know how big of an actual accomplishment that is. Of course, Coach DeBoer is the first coach to win a playoff game with 2 different schools, though, in school history. Or not just school history. I won't say school history, but in just college football history. So that's pretty impressive. Coach DeBoer is actually 20-5 against nationally ranked teams as an FBS head coach. He is 8-3 in those games at Alabama. He is 4-0 against AP top 10 teams in true road games. That is the most wins of any active coach in the playoff era. So, I mean, if you got 4 wins against AP top 10 teams on the road, you're doing something right. I know there has been some frustrations with Coach DeBoer, and I think a lot of that is just because he's not Nick Saban, to be honest with you. I've been impressed with what he's done at Alabama. I do think that was a big win for him. It calmed people down. He wins another one. If he were to beat Indiana in the Rose Bowl, which we'll talk about the game at some other point, I think it just gets better for DeBoer. Now, what does that mean for Michigan? We'll talk about that in a minute as well, because there were some people pretty convinced that he was leaving for Michigan. But I think this is a big win for Coach DeBoer and that staff. Speaking of staff, quick note, Nick Sheridan took the offensive coordinator job at Michigan State as well. So you're losing a couple guys because you lose Shepard to Oregon State. Almost said Oklahoma State, but Oregon State. So I think it's a big win for Alabama for this new staff, to this new era of Alabama football.
Yeah, shout out to Nick Sheridan, by the way, before I continue. You don't see a lot of coaches stick around whenever, he kind of sort of got demoted, bringing Grubb in. He was kind of doing he was taking the offense, individually. It was his thing last year, and then bringing Ryan Grubb in. I think it shows a lot about his character to just stick around, even with a change of roles there. But I'm excited for the staff. I think the frustration that I have, and once again, I'll take the good with the bad any day. And I was talking to a friend about this, that it seems that we play up for big games and we don't for the games, that we shouldn't win, or that we should win. Sorry, the games that we should win, it seems like we struggle. And I don't know if that's a culture thing. I'm not in the locker room. And once again, there's not like a scientific method, formula, a way to do things. So I'm interested to see why that is and what there could be doing, what there could be done to fix it. So
I will say that is, if I were to have a gripe, like I said, I'm fine with what Coach DeBoer's done through 2 years as a Bama fan. If I did have a gripe, I do think they play their competition level. But we were spoiled for 17 years because I remember seeing videos of Coach Saban shooing guys out when they were up by like 20 on Kentucky, in the middle of the year. Like, they're blowing Kentucky out and he's still coaching them hard. But you have to also realize that's really unrealistic to compare someone to Nick Saban, of course. So I like what he's done there. Alabama, of course, will play in the Rose Bowl against Indiana, the number 1 seed. Coach Curt Cignetti, who coached Alabama once upon a time as kind of a lower-level assistant coach. And then you had Coach DeBoer, who is the offensive coordinator at Indiana way back in the day. So fun little tie in there. We all knew that, of course. Quickly before I move on, Curt Cignetti as a head coach, 143-37 as a head coach. Kalen DeBoer, 124-19. So 2 guys had found ways to win in their career. So moving on. Go Go ahead.
Really quickly, I just want to mention. I noticed that Mateer he changes his arm angle a lot. Like Mahomes does. It seems like he kind of does too much and tries to make stuff happen that he doesn't need to. I mean, he missed a lot of big throws. Now, once again, he's a big reason why they took the 17-0 lead that they did, because him being able to extend the game with his legs, with the design quarterback runs, which I didn't expect to give Alabama problems, but it did. But I feel like he missed a lot of arm angle, or a lot of throws due to the arm angle thing. He's changing up. Maybe it's because of his injury and he's changing the support. I don't know. And lastly, the Ryan Williams situation. He's such a good athlete, but he just refuses to catch the ball with his hands. He's trying to look everything into his chest. And, the drop that he had, it kind of hit him in the shoulder. And if he would have just turned his hands over, once again, I'm not a football coach, but just looking at that, it's frustrating knowing the talent and the ability that he has, and it's not really working out right now. And I'm not giving up on him by any means, but it's definitely interesting and frustrating.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think he's a great athlete. You get the ball in his hands, he makes plays. So I'm sure we'll talk about him more as time goes on. We're going to move on to the second game, which is an interesting one. Miami beats Texas A&M 10-7. I am going to ask you a quick question before we get far, and I want to start by saying I think the answer is both, but you can only pick one of the two here. Did Texas A&M lose the game, or did Miami win the game? I think it's a little both, but which one? If you had to only pick one, which one do you pick?
I personally think Miami won the game just for the sole fact of the big plays they made down the stretch. They were a bend don't break mentality. Texas A&M could get in the red zone, but they could just not finish. Maybe Texas A&M losing the game with the weird concept at the end. It seemed like he kind of forced it and didn't give his guys a chance. I'm talking about Marcel Reed's throw at the end. But I think you got to give Miami credit for finding a way when they could not figure it out on offense.
I actually think Texas A&M lost this game. If I had to pick one of the two, no disrespect to Miami, but if I'm picking one, I think A&M lost the game. I think Miami played great just to keep themselves in the game. But I'm just going to read the stats here. Total yards, A&M 326 to 278. It was much more pronounced in the first half. 21 first downs for A&M to 12 for the ball for 33 minutes and 44 seconds, while Miami had it for. The difference here is Miami turned it over once, A&M turned it over 3 times. And that includes a block. That doesn't include a blocked field goal when they were like inside the 10 at one point. It's hard to say if the game would have gone the exact same way it is, but if you have that field goal, it's 10-10. That's a very simplistic way to look at it. I don't agree that if you make that field goal, I think the game goes differently, of course. I think credit to Miami. They kept fighting back, and they bent but didn't break at all. But I think if you're A&M, you should be looking at this game.
Yeah, I think in this era, the number's 20. I think you got to score 20 in this era. Back in the day, back in the early 2000s or whatever, you might see a lot of those nasty games like that, the 10-7s, the stuff like that. But it's really hard. It's really hard to stop teams from scoring consistently in today's era because there's so much creativity, so many new looks with everything that these OCs are doing and the in-game adjustments that they can make. So if you can't score 20 in this era, it's not the defense. It's probably you.
I agree with you for that most part. I will say, I wonder if A&M considers, or at least discusses, is Marcel Reed our quarterback? Because I've seen people discuss that. I thought there's times he's looked really great this year, and then there was times where has he held A&M back? I think A&M benefited from a weaker schedule, especially in conference. Don't get me wrong, 11 wins is very impressive, but I think it showed up at the end of the year. And I wonder if people will start questioning, is Marcel Reed the answer or not there? I will give you one quick little achievement here. I got a little button for you. I thought it'd be more than that, but you picked Miami while I picked Texas A&M in that game. So congrats to you. You went 4-0. I went 3-1.
I don't think either team necessarily deserves a celebration. But I just think that Miami just found a way, and I believe that Texas A&M came in this game feeling very confident they were going to win it. I feel like it seemed like they didn't. Once again, I'm putting words in their mouths, but I just feel like that it seemed like that they felt that they were the better team, and they came in and kind of played flat because of it, especially offensively. And I said on the show last week, or not last week, before the weekend, that they want to run zone read with Marcel Reed 12, 15 times a game, and he's very one dimensional. I know that's I'm beating a dead horse. That's a common thing in college football, but especially him now when he's going with the quarterback plus one runs. But it seems that I think that a school like Texas A&M, who can afford to pay pretty much anybody they want to, I'd be interested to see what's next for them.
I think it's a fair point, and it is interesting because I think with NIL, I think A&M is in a position where they can just continue to sustain success with that money potentially. I mean, you got to imagine some of those schools in Texas do have a good bit of money. Look what Texas Tech did this year. We won't get to talk with them much today because they didn't have a first round game. But I mean, I think you make a good point about the Texas NIL money, just that funding. I will say I picked A&M just because it was at home. Honestly, I thought it was kind of a coin flip. I didn't really have a great feel. If it was a neutral side game, I might have picked Miami. I say neutral side game because Miami technically doesn't have a home stadium. They play in, Hard Rock. So they don't actually have I don't know if I could say they have a great home environment. But I thought maybe the fun yell leaders at A&M would help Texas A&M get the win. I don't think either team's beating Ohio State, so I didn't really care too much. So let's move on. We're going to go through the next two games kind of quicker, I think more or less to discuss them together. Because Ole Miss in a rematch against Tulane from earlier this year wins 41-10 over Tulane. We'll quickly go through the game in general. Tulane was moving the ball. They just couldn't finish drives. And then Ole Miss, while they maybe struggled finishing drives early, so they were still getting points. That was the difference. And I think you see the difference between an American talent level roster and a SEC talent level roster. And depending on who you ask, Ole Miss isn't even at the one of the more talented SEC teams. They're probably like fourth or fifth most talented. And Tulane's arguably the most talented, maybe the second most talented American roster. You just see the difference when, even if Ole Miss just plays a decent game, the talent level could really make an issue for Tulane. I don't know if you have anything you would like to add to that.
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed Tulane's biggest playmaker, especially in the first half, Chaz Preston, Alabama transfer. But I felt like Ole Miss was kind of playing with their food a little bit early on. That they had chances to put it away earlier than they did. Once again, they didn't have any issues doing that. But I thought the game should have been over before it was, and Tulane just couldn't capitalize on it. I think this got outduted. Ole Miss is very balanced on offense, very versatile. I think they check all three boxes. They can run the ball well. With Lacey, they can throw the ball well. They have dudes at receiver, and also Chambliss can extend each play with his legs when it breaks down. So I think that they're really dangerous. And when you're out athleted and you're out balanced, and I guess that's a word I'll use. Usually is not a good combo.
Yeah, that's fair. I wonder if that slow start we mentioned for Ole Miss, how much is that a growing pain for Pete Golding as new head coach? He did have an interview where he said, back when he was at Bama and Saban missed the Iron Bowl because of COVID, it didn't really matter a whole lot because so late in the season you're just kind of rolling. It's same thing every day, and that's the mentality they took. But you got to wonder if maybe there's some because now Pete's calling all the shots for everything. He's not just worried about defense, and you got a few other guys in different responsibilities as well. But then once they say, hey, it's same team we've had all year, and I think they finally got rolling. It's a good football team. They will take on Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, which is going to be in New Orleans. Rematch. Georgia won that game. That game was in Athens earlier this year. Georgia won it. Probably one of the better regular season games all year. I've seen a lot of people say Ole Miss doesn't stand a chance against Georgia. I mean, I'm picking Georgia. Just spoiler for whenever we do that episode. But I don't think it's out of the question that Ole Miss could beat Georgia. I wouldn't. Like I said, I'm not going to pick them, but I don't think I wouldn't be like, wow, big shocker if Ole Miss were to win that game.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and spoil as well. I was driving home yesterday back to Mobile, and I was thinking about the show, and I was like, I'm really having to talk myself out of flipping and picking Ole Miss.
Okay.
Just for the sole fact of that they're so versatile on offense, and it's just, I mean, I know Kirby's the one to do it if they need to.
Yeah.
And Georgia is playing hot, but the month off, it's not going to be a comfortable game for anybody involved.
I agree with you. I think it could be a fun game. It wouldn't shock me if Georgia blew them out by any means, just because Georgia has the ability to do so. But I'm also not going to be surprised if Ole Miss plays with them, maybe even wins. I'd be surprised if Ole Miss blew Georgia out, but that'd be about the only thing there. Moving on, the last game, real quick. I said wanted to get to these kind of together because I think it's probably going to be. Oh, my apologies. I think it's going to be a conversation about the G5 essentially. I will say James Madison scored 34 on Oregon. I don't know what that says about Oregon going into the Texas Tech game. If Oregon maybe took their eyes off the ball a little bit, and kind of throttled down, because I think Oregon could have named their score offensively.
Vegas was calling me.
Okay.
Yeah. I was letting you know Vegas called.
I mean, it was a 21-point spread. You do have a kid. So I was wondering if you were actually getting a phone call there. So
no, I wouldn't do that to you.
I was about to have to delay and just ramble for a bit.
Yeah. I wouldn't do that on the camera at least. I'd hit with these little numbers right here.
Yeah, I'd hit one of these too if I figured it was good. But Oregon, I think, could have named their score. I do think they throttled down a little bit offensively. Like they weren't trying to run up the score necessarily, but there was a point where it's like James Madison just couldn't stop them, and you can't tell some of these guys not to score, But I say credit to James Madison for scoring 34 in this game. But I don't, even though it was a 17-point game at the end, I don't think it ever felt like a 17-point game. I had it on the second. I had the little. Actually, I don't have a quad box yesterday because there was only 3 games I was watching. But I had the little tri box going, and I had the Bears Packers game on the other side while I was watching this game, and it just never felt like this Oregon James Madison game was that close, even though it was a 17-point game.
Yeah, it looked like just a big play fest. I mean, you could tell that they were out athleted. Even I felt that it was a bigger gap than the Ole Miss Tulane game from a roster standpoint. Personally, in my opinion, it was like James Madison would hold the ball, and then Oregon would score on 2 plays, 3 plays, 4 plays each time they touched it. I'm gonna be honest. The backdoor cover is looking a little suspect. And that's all I'm saying. It seemed to me every expert or every whatever was picking Oregon by 20 on the spread, and I don't know. Vegas calls, man. They're getting good at this stuff. I don't know.
That's fair. Fun argument, at least. Maybe we can dive into it a little more one day. How accurate Vegas actually really is. It's crazy their model they have to predict games. But really and truly, wanted to do this because I want to know, like, where do we go with the G5 in the future playoffs? I will start by saying I don't think you're going to have years where there's going to be 2 G5 teams in very often. This was the ACC's fault. This is Virginia's fault, not beating Duke in the conference championship game. But, where do they go in the G5? Because they haven't won a game yet. Even last year when they had Boise, they didn't win a game. So where do you go if you're the G5? I don't think you can leave them out. I've seen people say, just put the 12 best teams in. And while I agree with the idea of that, don't get me wrong, I think because you've included the G5, you can't just kick them out without there being a reason to kick them out or a financial reason, because I think you're opening up a lawsuit because you've already included them. So if you kick them out entirely, that's a different can of worms. You got to have something for them to take over. And whether that's a G5 playoff of their own or whatnot, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think the answer, and we talked about it last show, I think the answer is to split them off and have their own thing, have their own playoff. I think people would watch it, especially in the gap between conference title games and the playoffs, the FBS playoffs. It's not a branding. It's not even a branding thing. It's more so a money spending thing. I mean, it's just what it is. I mean, look at basketball. That's how you know it's not a branding thing, because Gonzaga is not a big brand, but they are a historically dominant basketball program because they put so much effort into it and money. And we're going to talk about that either today or on a future show, depending on where we are on time. But it's not a, you know, I know a lot of narratives being shared is, you know, the branding from a money perspective, and that is true from a TV standpoint. But like you said, they don't want to go to court either. So I think the answer is splitting off the G5. It's just a matter of lobbyists in the way of that, or, you know, NCAA not wanting to nudge.
It's a money thing for sure, because I'm looking at it right now, and you get $4 million just for making the playoffs, being one of the 12 teams. So like you got to justify the financial reason to kick them out. And I said to kick them out, but to create a G5 playoff, you got to make that financially make sense for them as well, instead of just cutting them out. Because you get $4 million for being one of the 12 teams, you get $4 million to be one of the 8 teams, and then you get $6 million for a Final Four and $6 million for the championship game. Also, the conference gets $300,000 per school. So, like, the American, not only does Tulane get a decent amount of money, but the American Conference gets a pretty nice check as well. The Sun Belt, which probably needs it more in the American, the Sun Belt got a pretty nice check because James Madison made it. So, like, how do you make it make sense for a G5 playoff? I think there's a world where maybe the big boys, essentially the big schools, the big playoffs, help subsidize that G5 playoff for it to make sense. You got to run the risk of, listen, yeah, it's obviously a lesser national championship, but was Tulane ever winning a national championship this year? No. So, like, yeah, while a G5 national title would be a lesser title and it would be a step down, if you can justify the money part of it, would you, as James Madison, Tulane, South Florida, our lovely Jacksonville State University, would those schools prefer to play for their own G5 championship and just fully admitting that, yeah, listen, we're not competing with the big boys? Because even last year, was Boise State, when everybody thought they were elite, like a truly really good G5 team, were they winning a national title? No. So I understand both sides of it. That's, the point. I think it's got to be made.
If they cared about my argument there is that if they cared about the G5, they wouldn't be going to non-conference games. Because with the regular season scheduling, that is the funding for a lot of these G5 schools.
Yeah, that they go and take a beating at a lot of these schools. Now, if they pull off a win, it's even better. Don't get me wrong. They're not going there just hoping they just take the money and have fun. They are trying to win, but the SEC is going to 9 conference games, and they have to play 1 P4 school, so they have to play 10 P4 games. So that cuts out, a lot of those bye games for those smaller schools. Which hurts their resumes as well, by the way, because, like, if they can't go play a team, because, like, Boise, while they didn't beat Oregon last year, a big part of their resume is they played with Oregon. So, that was able to keep, help them. Now, I don't think they had a problem getting into it because there really wasn't another G5 team threatening them. They just had to win their conference championship. But that is something to keep an eye on. I will say my opinion. Do you have anything you want to add on that subject before it's still a G5 topic I want to bring up, but just a quick statement. But if you had something.
Yeah, really quick. I just don't buy the argument that people won't watch it, because
I would.
I mean, I'm a sicko. I watch the FCS playoffs,
I will say,
and I love the format. By the way, they do an awesome job.
I'll say this. I'm glad you actually said this. I've seen a lot of people say, "Oh, you got to include them. You got to include them." And like I said, I understand why you do right now. I bet the people who are saying, "Oh, you got to have James Madison play Oregon," everybody knows Oregon was beating James Madison. In our pick'em, everybody put Oregon as the top confidence pick. I bet the people who said, "Oh, you got to include James Madison," turned off that game. But I had it on this, like I said, in the little try box. It was one of the 3 games I was still watching. Now I was more focused on the Bears-Packers game because that was a thriller. But me and you are probably still paying attention to the Oregon-James Madison game because we really like football. And I bet that's the difference there. I will say the one thing I think this hurts is, and I've hated this argument, but I think this maybe finally took its death blow yesterday. I've seen people say the playoffs should only be 10 teams and it should only be the conference champions. So like Alabama wouldn't have made it. Duke would have made it because they won the conference championship. There's no argument. Ohio State would have been left out, but you would have had like Kennesaw State and James Madison, Boise, all those schools. Who won the MAC? Was it Western Michigan?
Yeah, because they played in the Myrtle Beach Bowl and put it on Kennesaw State.
So you would have had all those teams making it this year. And I just don't agree that would have been a great format. I understand, I guess, the thought process of, conference championships need to matter, but I don't need to see Western Michigan get blown out by Texas Tech.
You think Notre Dame would be for that rule?
It would finally force them to get into a conference, sure, but no.
Yeah, I think that's a worse argument. I think that's a worse situation than where we're at. It just comes like I said last show, and this fits the argument to the G5 thing. We don't say that a 2A championship doesn't matter in Alabama, because they're not 7A, or they wouldn't be a 7A school. Of course not. They play in different leagues and they have different resources. Same thing with the college landscape. So I think that's the only solution. People would watch it. People nationally aren't going to watch it, but people nationally don't watch college football anyways. Like, you don't see a lot of college football in New York, right? But it's a big enough moneymaker and brand, especially in the Southeast, to make it watchable and make it fun and make it a good event. I think it just makes more sense. And they would be able to receive all the resources from that instead of splitting it with P5, P4.
Yeah. I think you nailed it. Mentioned JSU a second ago. Shout out to my Gamecocks for winning the Veterans Bowl over Troy.
Hey, I got to be in attendance. I'm a big fearing man. Yeah,
Whoop Troy. There's a reason they ran from us for years, and we see why. They couldn't hide from us in that bowl game, Troy. But
lastly, really quick, if they revamp the G5, I would love to see them do geographic conference realignment. I would love to see. Why is Troy and JSU not in a conference together? They're 3 hours down the road in the same state, but then instead JSU has to fly to New Mexico State. You have
UAB in that same argument as well, I guess.
But then they talk about that they say they want to take care of G5. They want to take care of these schools, and that it's about the student athletes, which is an absolute joke. And then they're going to make them spend all that money to travel to a regular season game on a Wednesday night across the country. I don't get it.
Yeah. Make a good point. I'll let that end it because I don't know if I can top it. We'll go right into the next part. Quickly, want to talk about a guy that got an extension, got a pay raise. Kenny Dillingham, 5-year deal for $7.5 million per year. That's the average over the course of the deal. So big credit to Arizona State. They keep their guy, Arizona State alum, Kenny Dillingham. He absolutely loves Arizona. And there was talks of he might consider the Michigan job, and I'm sure he did, honestly, because while he loves Arizona State, he had to wonder, can I win here? And not only did they give him an extension, they increased his assistant bonus or assistant coaching pool money, and supposedly are going to increase some NIL. I did see where Kenny Dillingham, I don't know what day it was, he did say, surely there's someone in Phoenix that can cut a $20 million check for us. So listen, he's always recruiting, maybe in a different way.
He's not wrong.
That's recruiting nowadays too. you're having to recruit NIL boosters. Now, I have an issue with how NIL is structured in general, but that we don't have time for that today. But huge shout out for Kenny Dillingham, who has, when he got to Arizona State, people thought he was just a transition coach because that program was in the dumps. They thought, hey, we're just going to let him get Arizona State out of it, and then we'll find a coach after. But he proved a lot of people wrong there, and I mean, he's got a pretty good thing going at Arizona State in the Big 12.
Yeah, I'm a Kenny Dillingham fan. I don't know. Obviously, I'm not the building, but I don't know who didn't go after him. I think any program is silly not to, especially with. I mean, who else you can hire over him right now? Realistically, leave to go somewhere else. I'm surprised. I don't know if Auburn went after. I'm surprised it didn't. If it didn't, I don't know if Penn State went after. I'm surprised it didn't. If it didn't. I think he's a great culture guy. And one of my favorite Kenny Dillingham moments was I think it was preseason. He was talking about practice, and he said we're a 6-6 team right now. Like we don't compete in practice. I'm paraphrasing, but it was cool to see. It was cool to see that.
I think he originally said they're like a 3-9 team too.
Yeah, it was cool to see.
He said somebody's got to go 3-9. Why can't it be us?
Yeah, and that's a good mentality to have. Especially in a weaker league where sometimes you can get away with stuff. Like you're not. I know they're not in the conference, but you're not going to see Notre Dame saying that. And once again, I know it's a different record and they're a different level of team, but Arizona State's a successful program right now. I know it might not look like it this year, but I mean they just came off a playoff run and they returned like 17 of their starters from that team. So I think you got to be excited if you're an Arizona State fan, and anybody that wouldn't have him, I think is silly.
Yeah, I think it's great for Arizona State. I mean, you got a guy that loves Arizona State. I've seen Dillingham joke about being a huge Cardinals fan. So like he just loves the area. I mean, he gets to go to his Cardinals home games as well if he wants. That would be the school. That would be, honestly, if I was Arizona State, that'd be the thing that worried me is the Cardinals eventually called him and tried to poach him away. We'll talk about that, if it ever happens. They do have to worry because they did lose their starting quarterback, Sam Leavitt. We'll talk about him at some point. I think this is me and Johnston talking right now. I haven't mentioned it to him. I think once we get closer to time, we just go down the transfer portal list. I'll share our screen and we just predict where we think transfer portals will go. And Sam Leavitt could be there. So that could be kind of fun. Just one episode. We just go down the list. Whatever 247 Sports has them listed as number 1 transfer, number 2 transfer, we just say where we think they'll go. That could be fun because Leavitt's going to be on that list. Where he'll go. I mean, I know some people think LSU, maybe Tennessee. I've seen who was it? I've seen Penn State and I've seen Virginia Tech potentially for him as well. So I don't know. It'd be a fun conversation. Really and truly the Kenny Dillingham thing, unless you wanted to add something on Sam Leavitt, I'll go ahead and pull this up. If you want to, you can say it. But really, what does this mean for Michigan? Because Dillingham was a name. We talked about Coach DeBoer won a game. How do you want to get this started?
I think Michigan's in trouble. I do. I don't know who they can go get right now that is going to meet their standard. I think like I said on the last show, I'm not trying to say that 100 times, but I think you got to know, once again, I know the situation is unique, but if you fire a coach, you got to know it's coming to the door. And I think they wanted to get rid of it before they did. So that's why I think they should have won it.
I think they were in a weird spot because they definitely were going to have to get rid of him once it started coming more into light. Now we discussed if they would have beat Ohio State, would they try to help cover it up? But I do think they waited to fire him after signing day for a reason because they didn't want to lose their recruits. So it was kind of a unique situation of, firing him so late. Who are you going to get? Coach Dillingham over in Arizona State was going to be a name people thought. Looks like that's off the table. They've talked about Jed Fish. I've seen that they don't really like the background check on Jed Fish. Apparently, he covered up something at Arizona with one of the the quarterbacks at one point. Noah Fafita, who is the Arizona quarterback, the guy he took over for, whose name is slipping my mind. Supposedly, Fish may have helped him with something. And people were suggesting, I don't know. If I find out more about it, we'll talk about it. Why not? But and then Coach DeBoer
that would explain a lot because his name keeps popping up and then disappearing.
Disappearing. People saying he keeps background checks are hurting him. I don't know. They might still have to go to Jetfish, so because they are running out of names. I've seen Jeff Brom, of course. I know he signed an extension to Louisville, but because they fired Moore with cause, they didn't have to pay a buyout. So they don't have that money to worry about. I do see people thinking they're going to wait until after the Rose Bowl and just see if they can keep putting pressure on Kalen DeBoer. Thinking maybe if he loses the Rose Bowl, they can still convince him. It is on brand that Michigan doesn't understand that no means no in that situation. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But oh man. You might edit that one out. We might have to edit that one out.
No, that's staying. That's staying. That's staying. I vote that's staying. Okay. Wow.
Oh man.
I'll extend on that after the show.
But I do wonder if they would just consider him naming Biff. He's the interim for the bowl game. Do you just say, hey, he's our interim coach for 26, and we'll evaluate at the time, and that way you have a full year to find guys or not? I don't know what Michigan does. I don't know if I can keep talking about it.
and anybody saying Chip Lindsey.
That's true. Yeah, for Missouri.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, I thought that was an interesting move. And Drinkwitz, his name came up a lot of places. It looks like nobody. I don't know. It looks like nobody wants to be there or something. Usually moves like that happen after somebody gets hired because they're bringing in their guys. So for him to leave in a situation like that, I don't know if it was because they didn't seek him for a head coach spot or what that would be.
Yeah, not quite sure. Of course, and I don't know if we'll ever fully know the answer. Yeah. Some of those times. We're gonna go ahead and just jump. Unless you have anything you want to add to Michigan. I don't think I can top what I said. So I think I'm good.
Not beating it.
So let's just talk about it quickly some transfer portal stuff. I know this one's the one you wanted to talk about. We mentioned Sam Levitt. Ashton Daniels is transferring from Auburn today. That was announced. Really and truly, does that mean Byron Brown, who we don't know really what his status is? He sat out the bowl game. Is he going to try to transfer in Auburn, or are they going to roll with Deuce Knight? Like his coach Golish already told him, hey, listen, I'm going to the young guy. I don't really know. I think we're going to get some more names from Auburn soon. I know Perry Thompson and Singleton already at the portal. The big name, of course, is a guy named Coleman enter that portal as well. But I think that's the fun, maybe a fun school to keep an eye on right now.
Auburn is such an interesting school in that realm because they are still like a marketable brand for sure. Top 15 easily in the nation. People want to play there. I mean, it's a great atmosphere. I mean, I'm an Alabama fan, but the college town is incredible. It's a great place to be. It's a good fan base. I hate to say that and admit it, but I mean, they're ready to ride with whoever. So they have the boosters there that are willing to spend whatever they got to spend. I know Jackson Arnold was a huge land and a bust. I was really shocked. I got made fun of. I had some preseason predictions last year, and I had Cade Klubnik winning the Heisman, and I had Jackson Arnold leading Auburn to a 9-3 season, and you see where we're at. He didn't even make it through. I was shocked to see how one-dimensional he was. And Auburn just keeps swinging and missing in these situations. So I'm excited. I'm interested to see what they do. And Deuce not being the only one on the roster, but I don't think he's ready. That's just my personal opinion. I think he will be, and he's going to be really good. But I think that they could kind of stun his growth if they throw him in there right now.
Yeah, I understand. It makes a lot of sense. Just I decided, I'm going to go ahead and here's an ad. Pull up the.
Are we sponsored now? You got to.
Here we go. The transfer portal. And just some name stuff. So right now, this is what we're looking at. Chaz Coleman's right now the big name edge rusher over there for Penn State. I've seen a lot of people think Ohio State. I mean, there's a lot of big names just looking at this. A lot of quarterbacks, of course. That's always the big name. Swarsby's leaving Cincinnati, which is a heartbreaker for the Bearcats, I'm sure. DJ Lagway sounds like it was more of a, hey, it's just not going to work out here type deal. Rayola and the coach. I say Rayola is the dad, and the coach sounds like they got into it a little bit there. So Dylan got out of there as well. Rocco Beck's in the portal. I mean, this Nick Marsh guy, by the way, I'm just going to, a little spoiler for whenever we do this. I think this guy, I don't know if you can see my mouse. I'm circling Nick Marsh, though. I think that could be a really big name for a school next year. I think he's a pretty good receiver. Keep an eye on. Is there any names, so quickly, do you want to just throw out there that you know has hit the portal already?
No, I just wanted to know. Last year, there's Perry Thompson shout out. I really want this receiver to Alabama. I really think it's interesting. Last year, it felt like the portal pool was a little flat. You saw a lot of retention last year, a lot of roster retention, and that doesn't seem to be the case this year as much. I mean, there's some hot names in there that you didn't really see the volume coming out of last year. So I think it makes it really exciting season and a good time to start a podcast.
If it is. Listen, I think it would be a fun episode. We just nothing else. We just open it up and here's the portal. I took it off already, I know, but Chaz Coleman, where do we think he's going to go? And we just talk about it. And I think Ohio State. So, man. I think Ohio State for Chaz Coleman. And then we're back Brendan Sorsby, and I'm kind of like Tennessee kind of makes a lot of sense for Brendan Sorsby, especially if Aguilar doesn't get that extra year of eligibility, which I'm not sure if he will. DJ Lagway, Louisville sounds interesting. Baylor sounds interesting. You know, where these guys go? I think that could be fun. Maybe that's our next episode. I have no idea because we don't really have a plan. Speaking of which, we are 46 minutes in. Do you want to talk quickly about college basketball, or do we want to save it for another episode?
We can save it. Because I do want to expand on it, and I don't want to waste a good topic. So,
okay, perfectly fine with me. That means we're pretty much done here. I thought it was a good weekend of football. Do you have? Let's end on this way then, since we're not gonna do basketball.
Really quick. Go ahead and give a quick synopsis on the Packers and Bears.
Oh, sure. I kind of tried to throw it in with other segment because I didn't know if you got to watch it. It was like 13-3 the whole game, and Chicago does not look like they're doing anything. Kick a field goal, make it 13-6. Go for an onside kick, which have an 8% success rate on the year, and get the onside kick, go down the field, score a touchdown, tie it. They go to overtime, and Caleb Williams throws one of the best passes I've seen all year to DJ Moore in the back of the end zone, like 50 yards out to win the game, to walk it off on the Packers, and most likely win the division for the Bears. I don't think it's a lock yet. I think there's still mathematically a way they could lose it. But, dude, that was one of the best games of the year. And it started a little slow, but it had a kind of old school defensive feel. And then Chicago figured it out, man. Caleb Williams, I know our buddy, Father Jacobs, is not a huge Caleb Williams fan. But I think Caleb Williams is starting to show this year why he was the number one pick. And Ben Johnson he's really changed the culture in Chicago. So.
Who had the Bears winning their division on their bingo card this year? I was not the one.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if they win the division, because next year they would have a tougher schedule because you get the one schedule instead of the 4th spot schedule. So that is something to keep an eye on. So I haven't looked. I assume they had a slightly weaker schedule than a few other teams because of which. But it was just a fun game, of course. Last thing I'll bring up, 2-part question. Well, we'll go with the first part. What was the best game you watched that wasn't a playoff game? Since the last time we talked. It didn't have to be the weekend. It could be any time we talked.
Yeah, I'll just go back to that JSU and Troy game I got to be in attendance for. First off, Montgomery being our capital is a topic. I'll just leave it there. But the field, the way they did the venue, it was an awesome setup. There was a lot of people. I got to speak with some alumni there. My brother's in the marching band. He's a marching Southerner, so we got to hang out a little bit. And he was talking, and we were talking to some band alumni and stuff. And there were some alumni with tears in their eyes talking about this rivalry, how much it means to that school. You could kind of feel the atmosphere. It felt like a playoff game for those two schools, and it was a really good atmosphere. I mean, it wasn't sold out by any means, but it was a good atmosphere. I thought JSU was going to run away with it early. They score on the first drive and then they get a stop, and then right, wrong, or indifferent, they do a flea flicker in their own end zone, fumble it and get scooped up. Then they do a fake punt on their own 35. Like the fullback in the punt formation kind of goes out in the flats, and he drops the ball, and he probably would have went for 6 if not got a 50-yard gain. And then Troy took the lead, and the game should have been over early, but it wasn't, and it made for a good finish. Shout out to that coaching staff. Shout out to Charles Kelly, and I'm a huge Trickett fan. He was a former quarterback at West Virginia. Really?
Yeah. Did you not know this?
No, I did not. Where's he headed to?
You want to guess?
I can probably guess.
I think you're actually gonna be wrong.
Really? Okay. Go ahead. Tell me.
No, guess.
West Virginia was my guess.
No. Arkansas.
Oh. Okay.
Arkansas hired him. Ryan Silverfield hired him.
Yeah, and I've been a fan of him since last chance you. I mean, I've watched that series like 5 times. I love that show. His personality is awesome, and I think he's a really good football coach. But yeah, Charles Kelly. The bad thing about those schools, which is another G5 topic in itself, is when a G5 team gets hot, it's kind of tough because their coach is gone. They can't really retain any staff, so that's tough. But huge win for Jacksonville State. It was a good time. It's a good game. I'm a beak-fearing man. Shout out to my beak-fearing men out there.
Of course. I would say the best game I watched is Texas. I was watching it at the same time as the Bears. This is the third game in the Tri Box. Bears, Packers, and then the Oregon James Madison game was the Texas Tech Duke basketball. I said basketball game for Oregon James Madison. My apologies. Playoff game. I had the Texas Tech Duke basketball game on. Texas Tech won 81-80. Big win for Texas Tech. Grant McCaslin. This is how sad of a life I live. I just sit home. I just have like 4 boxes going the whole time for sports. I love basketball and football. And we're getting close to conference play in basketball. Alabama's playing today. I mean, I have it
They're playing currently.
Yeah, I have it on the side over here. They're winning pretty easily over Kennesaw State. It's 80-58 or something like that, with like 6 minutes to go. Former Bama assistant coach Petway is the head coach at Kennesaw State. That game's being played in Huntsville, by the way. So
basketball, the landscape there is interesting. I'm excited to talk about it. I'm really interested in what rev share and NIL, especially rev share, does to that landscape, and I'm excited to talk about in the episode what the Big East looks like, and predictions, and that. I'm excited.
It is interesting. Cool. You can go to like a school like Villanova, who they have a football team, but it's like an FCS football team.
Yes, they were in the playoffs.
So how much are they using on NIL? Like Gonzaga, how much are they going to use on NIL? Which they're a little different because they're not even because the Big East is a power conference in basketball. They're in the WAC, which is not, even though everybody considers Gonzaga a big level school, they are in a smaller conference still. I'm trying to think of another good example. You could argue Kansas, even though they have a football team, they're not probably spending a lot on the football program compared to basketball. UConn, solid answer. But so my next question before we get out of here, are you a Stranger Things fan? I feel like we've talked about this.
My wife is. I'm not, but my wife is. She's watched a lot of it.
Okay, well then we're in the show. I can ask you what you think if you don't watch it.
Give it a little spill real quick.
I was just going to ask you if you thought Steve died this week or not. Because he died.
I'll have to ask my secretary.
Okay. I hope he doesn't. If Steve dies, I probably won't be able to do the show anymore.
Shout out to Steve. I don't know you, bro, but we got some passionate fans over here.
Steve
die in Stranger Things?
Ask her, does she think Steve will die in the last 4 episodes?
Do you think Steve will die?
I only watched like 2 seasons.
Okay, so you guys don't even know. Okay, this is a very anticlimactic. We gotta think of another question real quick. Oh man, is a hot dog a sandwich?
It's a hot dog a sandwich. Hot dog's a hot dog, bro. Hey, speaking on that topic, the UFL is like in this save the league
Oh, yeah.
mentality right now. They're in
Why
this.
didn't we talk about this? Go ahead. We'll
I
just
know, I didn't
continue
even
going.
think about it.
Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So AJ McCarron gets hired as Birmingham Stallions coach. I think it's an absolute genius move marketing wise. But coaching perspective, I'm indifferent on that. I think it's genius. He obviously knows football, but I know there's a lot of guys that probably want the job as a resume. But I mean, they're playing on the fact that
Made it.
Alabama Crimson Tide, the University of Alabama, runs the state, and I think as many players as that they can get involved or coaches that they can get involved from that background is a genius marketing move. It'll sell tickets. I mean, we saw that with the Birmingham Iron, a few years back. Most of the roster was Alabama and Auburn players, right? So I think it's a genius marketing move, and we'll catch a game. And the reason that the hot dog reminded me, they were talking about maybe doing like $1 hot dogs or something. I'm like, hey, $20 football game with $1 hot dogs.
I'm down to go. Down to go.
We'll
do a podcast live in the stadium. You think the Stallions will just do it? We'll be.
Hey, I think they would just call a play a football ticket right now.
Hey, Birmingham Stallions. We'll just become a Birmingham Stallions podcast if you pay for it.
Let's go. Hey, giddy up, baby. Let's go.
Yeah. Keep turning the butter over there. I will say about AJ McCarron. First, very happy it's going to get him out of politics. Thankfully.
Yeah. But that's not who he is, and he knows that, and I think he realized that. And he talked about that a lot in some of his shows that he gets to do what he loves. So
I don't think he was ready for I'm not saying we're not a political show. I'm not saying that he should never run for politics. I just don't think it was a good time to like just impromptu. Hey, that was the same way if I felt about Paul Feinbaum. Hey, I'm just going to become a politician all of a sudden. Okay. Well,
that's why Tommy Tuberville did what he did. It's a recruiting tactic. I mean, that shows you how much football matters in Alabama, and Bruce Pearl, moving on to become a politician out of basketball. I think that
I know it's coming.
It's coming, but that's what I'm saying. Like it's all about, the smart thing. And I think that the marketing moves, the smart moves, were made. And that's why he was involved in what he was involved in. I do think he was passionate about those things, right, wrong, or indifferent on if he's ready or not. But I think the Birmingham Stallions thing is a good move, and from a marketing standpoint, and they're in a save the league stance. So, and I think that's one step in the right direction.
Yeah. To be clear, I don't have an issue if McCarron became a politician in the future. I just thought he was doing it because he thought it was something he wanted to do instead of something he needed to do. And he was just doing because I could probably win. I'm AJ McCarron in Alabama, and probably could.
He's not wrong. That's the thing.
And that's another issue entirely. I don't like that people would just because of that. But I think it's a great hire for the Stallions. I mean, I don't know who he's going to do as a head coach. I mean, I think it's a great hire in terms of like marketability. There is some worry about. Has he ever coached? So what's that going to look like? And the Birmingham Stallions, man, they got a legacy to uphold. Pretty good. So
giddy up, baby. 100%. I think it's interesting. I think that if you're going to do it in a place, if you're going to make a league work, this is the place to do it. In Alabama, people want football all year round. We're doing a podcast, and it's about to be the off season. We're going to talk about football all year. That's just what we do.
We're not just a football podcast, though.
100%, but we're going to touch on it all throughout the year. So I think Birmingham's a good spot for that and for the momentum they're trying to make. I haven't watched it as much as I would like to say I've watched it by any means, but I am interested to see how it goes.
I am too. I believe that's finally it for us. We went longer than I thought we would because we found the McCarron conversation. And then we had like a 2-minute break there in the Michigan segment where neither of us could talk. I don't know what happened, where you disappeared off screen. I don't know. Somebody said a very bad
joke. We were lagging.
Somebody said a bad joke. It was me.
It was Logan.
Oh, yeah. The unofficial third member. Eventually, we'll make her the sideline reporter once she can talk.
Let's go.
I don't know when we'll be back because it's Christmas week. So we'll figure it out. So it'll be fun. We'll be back eventually. Thanks for tuning in. Hey, the race for 10 subscribers is on. If you are the 10th subscriber, I will say thank you.
We will give away an email.
We will give away an email.
Yeah, we'll send an email
Okay. We will
from the official email.
If we get to 25 subscribers before the end of 2025, Johnston and I will create a calendar where we're taking like the sexy photo shoots. But only if we get the 20. That's a very low bar, 25 subscribers.
I think that's your job, Trent. I think that's your thing, and that you would do a better job at that. I'll be the camera guy.
Okay. You want to take pictures of me? Okay, we're getting out of here.
Okay.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. We'll be back eventually. This is we didn't even mention it. We're the party chat now. We finally found
We are.
The party chat with Trent and Jon. I lost that vote. I wanted Jon and Trent. But thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll be back.
All right. Great job.